A paralyzing winter storm is hammering the Midwest and heading east, but can the already snow-packed cities handle another blizzard? We'll bring you the latest forecast. Breaking news, Toyota announces its third recall in less than 6 months. This time, it's the brakes on more than 400,000 Prius and other hybrid vehicles. An amazing survivor story. Meet the man who battled the elements for 4 days after getting his SUV stuck in the snow. Now he's back home with his happy family to tell us how he managed to make it out alive. And the photos that can melt snow. We'll take an inside look at SI's famous swimsuit edition and meet one of the lucky models. Early this Tuesday morning, February 9th, 2010.
On a beautiful Tuesday morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Early Show. I'm Maggie Rodriguez.
And I'm Harry Smith. And while the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue is important this morning, other stories we're paying attention to: more recalls for Toyota, Prius owners, other hybrid owners, problems with the brakes. We'll get to the latest on that in just a sec.
Also this morning, Katie Couric investigates a very little-known practice among farmers in this country that's contributing to what the CDC says is the most pressing issue today. Katie is here this morning. She will reveal what it is and tell us if there's anything we can do about it. But first this morning, the paralyzing 1-2 punch of winter storms. A second massive blast of winter is hammering the Midwest as we speak. This is a look at suburban Chicago Denny's parking lot, where not many people are going there for breakfast right now. It's just too snowy. And this is heading east, where there are already major problems due to this weekend's blizzard. CBS News correspondent Whit Johnson is in Washington with the latest. Good morning, Whit.
For the southeast. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Dave, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, all right.
It's time now to check the rest of the morning's headlines.
Erica Hill is at the news desk. Good morning.
Good morning to you both. Breaking news out of Tokyo this morning. Toyota's third recall in less than 6 months. This time it is for the Prius hybrid, one that had been expected. It's enough, is it enough, the question this morning, to put the brakes, though, on the car maker's sliding reputation. CBS News correspondent Celia Hatton is in Tokyo this morning with more. Celia, good morning.
Good morning. It was rumored for days, and finally Toyota this morning announced another recall and made another attempt at corporate resurrection.
Smash. A strong showing, and good, too, that it was right here on CBS. Right, Harry Smith?
We are feeling that. Thanks very much, Erica. It was an...
All right, thanks, Harry. Now to a problem that's being called a ticking time bomb. More than 80 years after the discovery of penicillin, there's now growing concern that one day antibiotics will no longer work at all, not just because they're overprescribed in humans, but because they're being used very often in factory farming. Katie Couric is here now with a preview of her two-part CBS News investigation. Good morning, Katie.
Maggie, good morning. Nice to see you. As you mentioned earlier, the CDC says antibiotic resistance is one of the most pressing issues facing Americans today, and there's growing concern agriculture may be playing a major role in this, with huge amounts of antibiotics being given to healthy livestock to prevent disease and to make them grow bigger faster. Many say it's high time we take a closer look at what is happening on the farm.
So he's a farmer who's around livestock all the time.
That's right.
This is something that we all need to worry about, don't we?
Well, that's right. You know, we all have heard that you have to use antibiotics judiciously, and there's concern that humans are being overprescribed them for everything when they don't really work for viral infections. But in livestock, there's a lot of concern as well. People liken it to putting it in your child's cereal to keep him or her from getting sick, because as we heard in the piece, it teaches bacteria basically to outsmart the antibiotic, and then it creates these superbugs both in livestock and in people, and it's a really dangerous proposition that health experts are quite concerned about.
But how does this drug-resistant bacteria go from the farm to all of us?
Well, it can either go, it can be airborne, it can be in the water supply, and it can even come from the meat from those animals, and there's concern that people can get these sort of bacterial infections that are antibiotic resistant by either handling contaminated meat or ingesting undercooked meat. So it can spread in a variety of ways.
Knowing this, and even though the CDC calls it such a problem, why do farmers continue to do it?
Well, factory farmers insist, and other farmers who use antibiotics, that they use small amounts, low doses, and it keeps their herd healthy, and it keeps the cost down, and it makes them, as I mentioned, grow bigger, faster. So they really defend defend, the industry defends the use, but a lot of experts say, you know, it's really because many of these animals are being kept in unsanitary conditions, and they're trying to produce more livestock, to produce more meat, and it's really a practice that needs to be reconsidered.
Katie Couric. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, Maggie, for having me on, and we have a two-part series beginning tonight.
Yes, we want to let everybody know that you can see part 1 of Katie's report tonight on the CBS Evening News. Coming up here on The Early Show, the ultimate survivor. You're going to meet...
Nice morning here in New York City. It's almost kind of warm walking across the park this morning, right? Lots of weather coming our way, though. Welcome back to The Early Show. Coming up, a cautionary new study for women, pregnancy, autism, age. There are some links there. Some of the headlines are probably overblown. We will tell you what you need to know in terms of what this study actually showed in just a couple of minutes with Dr. Jennifer Ashton.
Women waiting longer to have babies, so everyone cares about that story. Also, Ed, I know this drives you crazy because it does me. Every time you pay a bill or you look at your bank or your credit card statement, isn't there some new fee that makes you go, well, what is this? Our consumer correspondent Susan Kopen is here, and she has some advice on how to keep your cash and avoid those fees. That's a little bit later, but first, an amazing story of survival. 31-year-old Jason Peedy was on a rescue mission of sorts. He was taking a young rescue dog to its new home in Colorado from California, but then the trip took a terrible turn. Now, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Early Show. I'm Maggie Rodriguez with Harry Smith.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Coming up, you're about to meet a hero pilot and his 2 passengers. They were in a glider about to soar free when the plane that was towing them suddenly collided with another plane. It took the pilot's flash reaction of the glider to know to unhook so they could escape and then end up landing safely. It's an amazing story, and they're here with us in the studio to tell us all about it.
Also, never too early to start thinking about tax day. It's actually not so far off now. So after you get all your receipts together, which is a pain in the neck, who's going to prepare them for you? Should you do it yourself? Should you get a professional to do it? Our financial guru, Vera Gibbons, will be along with advice on what you should do.
And maybe she'll do ours.
That would be great.
Wouldn't that be good? All right. Eric is at the news desk with the latest headlines this morning. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning again, and we begin with a major new recall from Toyota this morning, one affecting some of its most popular vehicles. This time we are talking about some Really, you're fine, because if it's still going to be free and first in business class, you don't need to worry, my friend.
Let me just tell you something. As long as it's clean, I'll pay the $7 at this point. I just don't want one of those rentals where you can clearly tell 20 or 30 or 40 people have used it before.